Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Raptors Nation YouTube channel. I'm Sean Davis, joined by Luca Rosano here in the lovely Blue Wire Studios at the Win in Las Vegas. Luca, it's been a little while, but we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today with the Toronto Raptors, including Pascal Siakam, Summer League, and how the Raptors might be building this team out if they're making a mistake with this roster. But first, Luca, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Sean. Love that I'm here with you guys in Vegas, experiencing Summer League firsthand. And going to talk about the Raptors and what they should do this offseason. It's been a very transformative offseason so far. Fred VanVleet going to Houston, Raptors firing Nick Nurse. So a lot is on the table for what this team should do next. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we should start off with Pascal Siakam. So Michael Grange of Sportsnet puts out a report today that the Raptors have gotten contacted by the Indiana Pacers in terms of potential Pascal Siakam trades. You've been very vocal on the channel about Pascal Siakam. Should the Raptors entertain potential offers for Pascal Siakam, who's entering a contract year?
So I've said this since the deadline of last season that the Raptors should, in fact, entertain offers because you look at the whole Van Vliet situation and you look at how the Raptors managed that, and it wasn't good at all. They thought they were going to bring him back this offseason, get him to a favorable deal. Van Vliet was about to get paid, and he, in fact, did get paid. He goes to Houston, and the Raptors lose him for nothing. As you mentioned, Pascal Siakam is coming on a contract year. So the Raptors really going to run the risk of losing another big-time player of theirs, an all-star of theirs, for absolutely nothing. I think the Raptors should do what's right for this franchise, swallow their pride, and try to get as much of a return for Pascal Siakam as they can. Like, I know there's a big connection there with Siakam and Ujiri, which is why Ujiri might be a little hesitant to trade Pascal Siakam. But, I mean, you look at the situation, Sean, it makes all the sense in the world to trade Siakam right now. The Raptors need to go all in on a direction. You can get the most return for a guy like Siakam this offseason because you know a team is going to look at their situation and say, if we trade for Siakam, we're going to have a shot to win the championship. The Pacers, like you mentioned, they get Siakam. They're an interesting wild card in the East. How about the Atlanta Hawks? Him paired with Trae Young. That's all. Like that, all of a sudden becomes a very intriguing situation in Atlanta. So if the Raptors run it back for Siakam, here's the thing: how much better are they going to be than a season ago?
Yeah.
And even if they are better than they were a season ago, their ceiling is still second round at best, and that's being generous, very, very generous.
Does Scotty Barnes take a leap in that scenario? Because I think to your point, and we've joked about this on the show, but like at least the team I'm about to mention kind of has a direction now. The Raptors are at risk of becoming the new Washington Wizards. What I mean by that is they have a top 25-ish player in Pascal Siakam, right? But you have Pascal Siakam, you let Fred VanVleet walk for nothing, just poor asset management there. Granted, like Fred gets like insanely paid, so I get why you didn't bring him back or whatever. I think Pascal will be more likely to come back than Fred. I think they're going to try to maybe work something out. But to your point, like let's say you pay, I don't know the exact numbers on like a max deal for Pascal Siakam, but let's say it's a 4-year, I don't know, $160 million offer. You're the new Washington Wizards, unless Scotty Barnes takes the next leap. And if I'm paying Pascal Siakam under $60 million, I'm sorry, but the offense is still going to run through Pascal Siakam. So, like, I don't know, man.
And here's the thing about the Wizards analogy. At least the Wizards finally accepted their fate. And I give them a lot of credit this offseason, right?
Yeah.
They made the necessary moves to enter into a slow rebuild. The Raptors, that's a good point that you mentioned about Pascal. They're going to have to pay him to keep him.
Yeah.
And are you really going to justify paying Pascal Siakam number one guy's money when it's called for what it is? He hasn't shown that he can be that number one guy in late game situations. Take the last game of the Raptors season, the play-in tournament. He literally folded at the free throw line when he needed to make the free throws to extend that game. So when it comes to Pascal Siakam being that secondary option, seeing him alongside a Trae Young, a Luca Doncic, just to give some examples, that makes perfect sense. Kawhi Leonard, which is why the Raptors won the championship in 2019. That is a great fit for Siakam. But Siakam being on this team next to Barnes, where they already do a lot of the same things, it just doesn't seem like it's going to be a good fit long term. So I think the Raptors need to look at the situation and trade Siakam this summer and just fully commit to the Scotty Barnes rebuild. Like, I don't know what they're waiting for. And here's another thing, too, I'll say, Sean. They brought back Pirtle, which they needed to, but they traded their 2024 first-round pick.
Yeah, top 4 protected, I believe.
Top 6 protected.
Top 6.
So even if the Raptors do blow it up, trade Siakam, and they're terrible this season. Now, granted, the 2024 draft class isn't really good,
Right.
but at least if you bottom out, you're more likely to keep that pick if it's within the top 6. Whereas if you're a middling team again, that pick's going to San Antonio.
Yeah.
So you just further shoot yourself in the foot and leave us scratching our head on why you even made that trade to begin with. But there's a lot of reasons why the Raptors should just finally do it, because I saw something on Twitter. I mean, are the Raptors really going to run the risk of losing Fred VanVleet, Siakam, and possibly even OG Anunoby for nothing? Like, that's terrible asset management. And I said this to you off air. All the blame and the scapegoat, if you will, was Nick Nurse. That he wasn't getting the most out of the young players, giving them a chance, and that it was time for him to go. If the Raptors stink up the joint this season with the current assets, players that they have, that falls on Masai Ujiri and management. Like, what are you guys doing? You need to put this team in the best position to win. And I don't want to overreact to Summer League, Sean, but all I'm going to say is this. There are a lot of fans right now who are looking at the Raptors 0-2 Summer League start. They're looking at their most recent performance, which I did catch the fourth quarter of in person, and just a lot of the struggles that are happening. And there are a lot of Raptors fans questioning, where's this team going with young talent? Because right now it's just like, you got Scotty, you got OG, but like, what else are you trying to build here? Obviously, Grady is still like raw and stuff like that.
Still.
And I like him too. And Noel, he's undersized. Hopefully he can make the most out of his opportunity. But I think it's time the Raptors just go all in on this rebuild and just do it the right way.
And that's the problem right there. I think the Raptors have been trying to do, ever since the championship, outside maybe the bubble year, which I think was kind of an anomaly, like outside the championship season, the Raptors have been trying to do both instead of just picking a direction. Do we want to be good and compete for the next few seasons, or do we want to just be bad for a year or two, which I don't think in the grand scheme of things, where the ultimate goal in professional sports, in my opinion, is winning championships and making money. You're not doing either of those things right now. Like, you're not winning. You're not on path, in a good or a bad way, of winning a championship, and you're not a huge market either. So you're not making the most money in the world. So just pick a direction. We're going to be bad for a year or two, which, again, grand scheme of things, like, look at the Pistons. The Pistons, this is so crazy, Luca. But the Pistons are closer to a championship right now than the Toronto Raptors. And that's a fact.
I like the roster a lot more.
Jaden, Jalen Duran, James Wiseman, Nassar Thompson. I'm missing a bunch of guys. The young teams that have been bad right now, that have been bad for a few years, think of the Pistons, think of the Magic. I love that Magic roster. Think of, obviously, San Antonio.
The Rockets.
San Antonio, I guess we kind of die down here, but San Antonio did it the right way. Instead of saying, nope, we're going to be mediocre with DeJounte Murray, let's, cash in. We're in Vegas. Let's put our chips in now. Here you go. DeJounte Murray, let's get picks. Let's go be bad for a year and potentially get a generational talent, Victor Wembanyama. And instead, the Raptors are the new Wizards, where we're going to be bad, but we're going to be just good enough to where we're going to win 37 games and be a 10 seed or 11 seed.
I love how you clown the Wizards like 3 times in the span of 10 minutes. So, yeah, Wizards catching stray. But I agree with you. The 2 timeline thing, it just doesn't work. And the Raptors have been trying to just run that for so long. And you would have thought the Van Vliet situation would have been a huge wake-up call, because they really wanted to run this thing back, Sean. They were banking.
They should have just brought back Nick Nurse then.
On Van Vliet coming back. And exactly, if that was your intention, you don't fire one of the best coaches in the NBA. And I think even like them drafting Grady Dick had a lot to do with the expectation that they thought Van Vliet was going to be back. Because if they knew Van Vliet was gone, I think they would have gone point guard for sure, like a Kobe Buffkin. So right now, the Raptors' patience has not done them any favors, and it's time Masai Ujiri and management looks at this like, okay, we got to control our fate. No more trying to let the chips fall where they may. We got to finally embrace one side here. And Van Vliet walking, to me, should have signaled it's time to blow this thing up and get picks and assets around Scotty Barnes, because Scotty Barnes, we talk about him so many times. I know people are like, oh, he struggled last season. He had a really good rookie season. So the
great second half of last year, even.
Great second half of last season. And we talk about how some of the great players now, Tatum, etc., they've had big year 3s. Why hinder that? Why not just go all in on Scotty so he could show us what he can do with the team around him for year 3 and just continue to build off that? Because obviously if Siakam's back, you're going to put the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
So
After you paying him like $38 million, you better put the ball in his hands.
just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, there's a lot of questioning with this team, and I don't know how the season is gonna go. I don't think the Raptors are gonna make a big splash in terms of trading for somebody. And that's the other thing. Like you already came out and said you're not gonna trade Scotty Barnes for
You're not trading OG.
for a KD, so you're not gonna trade him for a Lillard. You're not trading OG as Masai Ujiri wants like everything for him.
10 first-round picks for OG Anunoby.
And the one last thing I'll say is, and I'll throw it to you, like how much of this Raptors situation of Siakam actually falls on Siakam's loyalty to the Raptors, almost handcuffing them, because he said it many times that he's not interested signing an extension with another team. He wants to be in Toronto. So I'm not going to call that selfish, because obviously he loves it here, and he's done so much for the community. But it's like, if Siakam is coming out and saying that, like, I don't want to play, I'm not going to sign an extension with the Hawks or the Pacers, the Raptors are pretty much handcuffed and they can't trade him. So how much of that falls into this whole situation? Because that could be big.
I think it hinders potential trade destinations, because he is in that last year. If Pascal Siakam was in a 3-year contract still, then it'll be, okay, cool, you're just not going to play for 3 years. Very like Damian Lillard style, where I think the Dame stuff is just smoke. Like, okay, cool, you're not going to play for 4 years. You make it, sure, whatever. But I think the fact that Pascal Siakam is in the last year of his deal, that might scare some teams off if Pascal is coming out publicly and saying, yeah, I'm not going to re-sign with you. That's how the modern NBA trade cycle works with these star players. The ones that are in the last year of their deal, they typically have more leverage in these trade deals than players with. But think about it. I think Jake Fisher said this on the NBA Front Office show. Remember the Donovan Mitchell trade situation where at first it was, I'm only going to New York.
Yeah.
It dragged out because he had a long-term contract, and he ends up in Cleveland because eventually teams are like, no way he's just not going to play for 3 years. So we're going to put our chips on this player. Pascal's in the final year of his deal. So I get what you're saying. If Pascal's saying, look, I'm not going anywhere, then you're right. The Raptors are handcuffed, and there's only so much that he can do, that the Raptors can do. But Raptors Nation, leave a comment down below. Are you at all concerned about the Raptors' direction going forward? And as always, subscribe right here to the Raptors Nation YouTube channel. Ring that post notification bell for more. Stay safe. We'll see you all next time. Peace out.